So background notes for chapter 4. Excuse me, to understand this chapter, you need to know something about the country of South Africa. There are a number of different countries in southern Africa, but South Africa, capitalized, refers to a specific large country. Here's a link to a brief history of South Africa, but here are my brief notes also. Briefly, the area was settled by Dutch and British in the 1800s and became British colonies in the early 1900s. In 1999, South Africa became an independent British Commonwealth country, and in 1961 it left the British Commonwealth. During this period, the country was ruled by the white majority, the descendants of Dutch and British settlers. The native black majority had no voice in the government. For most of the 20th century, South Africa had a system of apartheid, strict laws that prevented the races from mixing and kept the whites in control. South Africans had papers that identified them as white, black, or colored. Colored people were of mixed race or of ancestry other than European or African, since many people had migrated to South Africa from countries in Asia. Each of these groups had specific laws to govern where they lived, what kind of work they could do, and what schools they could attend. The colored group was allowed more freedom and education than the blacks, but only the white population had political power. Beginning in the 1960s, black, colored, and some white South Africans began a long, hard struggle to end apartheid and establish a democratic government. A major leader in this struggle was Nelson Mandela, the son of an African tribal chief who followed the same ideals as Martin Luther King Jr. in the U.S. Mandela was imprisoned by the South African government from 1963 until 1990, but his movement continued. In the early 1990s, huge political changes came to South Africa. Apartheid was ended, and a transition was made to a democratic form of government. Mandela was elected president of the new South Africa in 1994. However, the end of apartheid and the new democratic government have done little to improve the life conditions for most of the country's black majority. In Chapter 4 of Flat Broke in the Free Market, Jeter writes about the current problems.